Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covered, three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin.
Number 4, Armbar.
I will never retire.
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
Alright, ladies, gents, and non-binary friends, welcome to another B Plus podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Monday, you know what that means. It's time for the Impact Zone. And normally I'm joined by Jay or Aiden, but unfortunately this week I'm flying completely solo. So this is probably going to be a relatively short episode. There's not a whole lot to talk about with Impact. And I mean, I like to try to stay positive. I wasn't a big fan of this episode of Impact. So I'll probably run down the results, give brief opinions, and leave it at that. I am still, of course, recovering from very sore throat, and I'd lost my voice, and it was awful. I had a terrible weekend, most of it in bed. But it's one of those things. I'm going to try to keep it nice and short just to help aid in my recovery. It's always a lot easier when I'm talking with someone else, but alas, this time around that was not possible. So, let's take a look at Uncaged, the special episode of Impact this week, live from Mexico. It wasn't live, obviously, it's taped. All of the Impact shows are taped, so this was taped in Mexico a few weeks ago, and Uncaged. They do the special Impacts every now and then, so they have Impact, because they don't have pay-per-views every month anymore. They only have pay-per-views every 3 months or so. Every now and then they'll do a special episode of Impact that's, hyped up bigger. It has more closure to stories and what have you, or at least it's supposed to. And Uncaged was one of those. And with the name Uncaged, you thought maybe Brian Cage is finally going to get that title. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but let's go through the card from top to bottom. Tessa Blanchard versus Taya Valkyrie, challenging Taya Valkyrie for that title back. We've talked about it on previous weeks. Now, Taya and Johnny are kind of in a weird place at the moment where they're booked as the faces in the stories, but they're kind of acting like heels. Taya suffered less from that in this one. Tessa did attack her on the ramp before the match started, but Taya saw her coming. They go back and forth. They have a really good brawl, to be honest with you. It was a really fun match. Tessa wearing one of Tully's shirts from the Four Horsemen shirt that he apparently wore when he had a street fight. It was pretty cool. But yeah, this was a good match. Taya ends up winning with a double stomp through the table. Most of the match was sort of centered around the table, setting up that table spot. But yeah, it ended with Taya getting the double stomp, pretty clean win, decent match. Awful booking though. Not a fan of Taya Valkyrie. Like, Tessa Blanchard has come into this company as one of the hottest women talents in the world, and they've built her up as one of the hottest women talents in the world, and then they've immediately knocked her off a pedestal in like her second title defense or something, and then had her lose her rematch clean, which was a street fight, which should play into, like, her dad was great at street fights, and she has shown that she's great at street fights. So it was just kind of annoying. It was kind of frustrating to see that they gave her Taya another clean win over Tessa, especially given that Tessa signed a long-term deal with them. Now, we don't know how long Taya is going to be there. I listened to a podcast not too long ago that she and Johnny were both on, and they were talking about, not knowing what their next move is going to be. So they're going to play their options. They might not stick around in Impact. But Tessa is a long-term bet for Impact. They've signed like a 3-year contract with her, And you would think you would want to build around her, have her be this dominating champion, have her be a Pete Dunne, right? Pete Dunne has had that title for 600 plus days. There is nothing wrong with long ass title reigns. It's how you get people over. It's how you get belts over. It's kind of old school, and I love a good long reign. And I thought Tessa Blanchard should have been doing that, but unfortunately, she lost the title in screwy circumstances. And I thought there would be screwy circumstances here, but there wasn't. And she just lost the rematch, and it's really unfortunate. Like, that says Taya is better, and she's not. We don't want her to be better. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm very curious where this is going to go, but not in a good way. Not in a good way at all. Moving on, we get Ethan Page versus Willie Mack. They refer to Willie Mack as Chocolate Thunder. I'm not sure I've heard that before. Referring to a black man as chocolate. Yeah, no. I don't know, Impact. You do you. Live your best life. But Willie Mack wins this match. Not much to it. It's just kind of a filler match, but it's nice to see Willie Mack picking up wins in filler matches and not losses, at least, so he's not full Trevor Lee yet. I love Willie Mack's cannonball too. I think I said this on the Ring of Honor podcast. But his cannonball where he jumps in, it's like a reverse cannonball. He jumps in instead of doing the senton cannonball. He does the senton first and then cannonballs out like a back foot. It's impressive. For a big man, I really enjoy it as well. But yeah, so Willie Mack wins that one, and I should mention, actually, I completely forgot, I skipped over it in my notes, but before this match, there was an interview backstage where Melissa Santos interviews Team Impact. So that's Sami Callihan, Fallah Bahh, Eli Drake, Eddie Edwards. And yeah, Sami Callihan doesn't like Fallah Bahh saying Bahh, so he leaves, and then Eli Drake cuts the rest of the promo, and sort of just runs down, what they're going to do. It was a pretty good promo, but again, like I said last week, this Impact versus AAA match has zero meaning, hasn't been built, and no one cares. After the Ethan Page and Willie Mack match, we get Killer Kross cutting a promo about the main event essentially being a 3-on-1 handicap match with 3 guys who have all beaten the champion, and says that everyone will pay the toll. Didn't make a lot of sense, but then we saw as well, after that interview, the camera sort of pans, and we see OVE following Willie Mack into his dressing room. We've got to think that's going to play into the OVE versus Rich Swann storyline at some point in the future. As later on in the show, Rich Swann officially declines the invitation to join OVE. Maybe they're going to start working on Willie Mack. Maybe they want Willie Mack to join. Maybe Willie Mack will do the heel turn. Maybe that's how he doesn't get lost in the shuffle and become Trevor Lee. Please, something. Give me something with Willie Mack other than he's Rich Swann's friend, because they both black, yo. It's very weak. Chocolate Thunder. Best friends with another black guy. Just, yeah, stop, Don. Stop. Please stop. It's not the 1990s. We want to see an actual character here. We want to see some actual development. And we want to see him winning more matches. So, I mean, you're on the right track with that, because at least he won a match here on this Impact. We then get Melissa Santos again. Fantastic work hiring Melissa Santos. She's one of the best announcers in the game, and she does a good job interviewing as well. So she's backstage interviewing Team AAA. They cut a promo in Spanish, all with subtitles, which is brilliant. We've sung the praises of this before, and I'll do it again. It's such a great move to do this, and it lets the charisma of the characters come through. They essentially say that the cup will stay in Mexico. Once again, no one cares. So Team AAA, of course, Vikingo, Psycho Clown, Puma King, and Aerostar. But again, no one cares. This match has had no build whatsoever, and it's kind of pointless. Sami Callihan comes to the ring, says he's going to reveal what he's got on Rich Swann, says that Rich Swann, all the things Rich Swann is saying is fake news. Very relevant, calling things fake news. That's so 2018. And he calls out Rich Swann, wants an answer now. He's like, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. Sami Callihan is just full of cliches tonight. Rich Swann throws the shirt at him, and then Sami beats him up with the microphone. And Rich Swann fights back, but ultimately Sami Callihan gets control. They go out of the ring. He didn't throw him off the stage. First, he pile drove him on the stage, then picked him up, threw him off the stage, through a table. Pretty good segment, to be honest with you. I'm glad to see some forward movement in this story. Rich Swann has officially said no. We think something's happening with Willie Mack. Maybe Willie Mack's going to turn. Maybe it's going to be a tag team thing. Maybe Willie Mack and Rich Swann will find another black friend to come in and face off against OVE in 6-man action. I don't know. Then we get Impact vs. AAA, the World Cup match. Many spots. It's very much it's a 8-man eliminator, so it's like lots of get your shit in. Bar does a splash off the apron at one point. Like, everyone does their suicide dive, takes their turn doing their suicide dives, and then Bar goes to hit one, but steps through the ropes and does a splash to the outside. That was pretty fun. The first elimination comes when Puma King pins Eli Drake, after Eli Drake gets distracted from, arguing with Eddie Edwards over Kenny, the kendo stick that he has. Eddie was watching, could have broken up the pin, but didn't. Kind of weak, because you're trying to win a match. They really like to do this with their baby faces feuding amongst themselves, or heels feuding amongst themselves, not breaking up the pins, even though it makes sense for that character to want to win the match anyway. This was kind of stupid. But Eli Drake gets eliminated. Then Fallah Bahh eliminates Vikingo. I would have really liked to see Vikingo last a little longer. That dude is a star. He has some amazing offense, but we didn't get to see too much of him in this match. He was the second man eliminated. Aerostar eliminates Fallah Bahh straight after that, so this is where we get elimination after elimination. Aerostar eliminates Bahh after Bahh tries to hit a bonsai drop but misses. Then Eddie eliminates Aerostar. Then Callahan eliminates Puma King. Sami Callihan tries to steal a pin from Eddie, but gets rolled up by Psycho Clown and eliminated. Then Eddie Edwards and Psycho Clown are the last two left. Eli Drake comes back. He hits Eddie with Kenny, the kendo stick, and Psycho Clown gets the pin for the win. Team AAA win the Pointless World Cup. It's good to see, they gave the win to the Mexicans in Mexico. They gave the win to the hometown team in Team AAA, which was pretty cool. The crowd popped for it, so that's a nice feel-good moment there. And it's kind of unexpected, right? Like, you expect, well, this is Impact. Of course, Team Impact are going to win the match that's on Impact, but they didn't, which is always nice. Then we move on, and Ali and Su Yung are backstage, and they're at that board that they were at last week where Rosemary wrote a message. And they keep saying, Shadow is playing mind games? Shadow is playing mind games. I have no idea what this meant. I'm not well versed enough in Impact's history, I suppose, to know exactly what that meant. But, I'm paying close attention to this story. I want it to go somewhere, but it's been dragging its feet, this story. This whole supernatural thing has been dragging its feet. And I'd really like to see some actual forward movement with Rosemary and Ali, because obviously something is going to happen there. We then get Scarlett Bordeaux in her bed, in her lingerie, and she wakes up and she's like, oh, I didn't see you there. I was sleeping. And, it's Scarlett Bordeaux. She's doing Scarlett things. She hypes up her in-ring debut in Vegas, not much to it. Then we get the championship match. Killer Kross, Moose, Brian Cage, and Johnny Impact. Once again, the main event scene is relatively boring at the moment. The story they're telling is kind of all over the place. Killer Kross ends up being the first to double-cross Moose with the suplex. We thought potentially Moose would be the one, but no, Killer Kross was the one to do the double-cross. Then, the end came when Brian Cage hit a drill claw on Moose. This is kind of complicated, so follow along if you can. Brian Cage hits a drill claw on Moose. Killer Kross breaks up the pin. Cage and Killer Kross have a little back and forth that ends in Brian Cage hitting the drill claw on Killer Kross. At the same time, though, as he's dealing with Kross, Impact sees Moose still on the ground, hits Starship Pain. As Cage gets Kross up for the drill claw, the Starship Pain connects and the ref starts to count 1, 2, 3. So as Brian Cage comes down and goes into the pin, the match is already over. So Johnny Impact steals the victory. Not a fighting champion move. I mean, I guess you could say, oh, he was smart. It was ring awareness. It was a veteran move. He saw the opponent down. His other opponents were tied up. He made the move. It was actually a pretty cool finish, to be honest with you. But again, I don't know where the story goes with Johnny Impact as champion, unless this is some kind of slow heel turn, at which point it's taking too long to become a heel turn, and he's just kind of a dick that claims to be this fighting champion when really he hasn't been. He hasn't been. He's lost and lost and lost. He's stolen a victory. He stole the last victory. It's been a really, really terrible run on the top for Johnny Impact as a face champion, and if they're trying to make him not a face, they need to be clearer. This whole Shades of Grey thing is bullcrap. It does not work. So, that's about it for Impact Uncaged. Brian Cage didn't win. Thought he was going to. Only pieces of Impact news I've seen this week. Joe Hendry has come out and said that he is no longer with Impact Wrestling. Joe Hendry, mate, you haven't been on TV in 3 months. Nobody thought you were still there. Meanwhile, Eddie Edwards has signed a long-term deal. Eddie Edwards, mate. No one thought you were going anywhere anyway. But that's it for Impact this week. Not much else to talk about. My voice is starting to hurt again, which is bad because I'm kind of recovering, so I'm gonna put a pin in it here. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit the B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. Like, share, subscribe, 5-star review if you like what we do. Since this is such a short episode, I've decided to keep the ads out of it. No ads in this episode. And if you like that, if you like not being interrupted by advertisements, you can do that forever with the B Plus podcast at thebplus.com/Patreon. And there's all kinds of cool rewards you'll get as well. So not only are the episodes ad-free, bonus episodes you get a little bit earlier. We also do custom episodes for our top tier backers who they get to dictate what we're going to talk about, who we're going to talk about it with, all that sort of fun stuff. It's a really good time. We also do call-in shows exclusively for our Patreon backers. So we're doing a call-in show after Elimination Chamber, so that's going to be nice and fun. Definitely get around it. Now's your chance. Head over to patreon.com/thebplus, and all your episodes in the future will be ad-free, just like this one was today. So get around it. 5-star review if you like what we do, and thank you so much for listening.
Hold one! Arm drag!
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy!
Goodbye and good night.
Hold two! Arm bar!
This is the worst town I've ever been in. It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy! Hold three! The moss covered! Three-handle family conundrum! Mamma mia! It's Mia!